So this video will have no edits or some garbage. My goal here is to give you the information out and clear with no BS. Ever start watching just one episode, only to find yourself deep into the next season hours later? Why is it so hard to stop? Today, we'll uncover the biochemistry behind binge watching, why it's so addictive, and, most importantly, how to break free with science-backed tips. Let's dive in. Part 1. The biochemistry of binge watching, dopamine and the brain's reward system. Binge watching isn't just a habit, it's a biochemical process. Every time you watch a show, your brain releases dopamine, a neurotransmitter that plays a central role in the brain's reward system. But dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's about motivation and reinforcement. It's the chemical that makes you feel good and pushes you to repeat behaviors that give you satisfaction. When you engage in pleasurable activities, like eating food or watching an exciting episode, dopamine is released from neurons in the brain. The release of dopamine binds to receptors in areas of the brain, like the nucleus accumbens, which is often referred to as the brain's pleasure center. This area is crucial for motivation and reward. When dopamine binds to these receptors, you feel pleasure, and your brain associates the activity with reward. But here's where it gets interesting. Dopamine also plays a key role in anticipation, not just the reward itself. That's why suspenseful moments or cliffhangers at the end of episodes trigger even more dopamine. Your brain is anticipating the pleasure of the next episode, and anticipation itself can trigger dopamine release. A study from UCLA explains how anticipation increases dopamine release in the brain, making you more likely to keep watching. When you hit next episode, your brain is actually getting a reward before you even watch the show. The cycle of anticipation and reward locks you in. And here's the kicker. Over time, your brain adapts. The mesolimbic dopamine system becomes sensitized, which means it requires more stimulation, more episodes, more suspense, to achieve the same level of satisfaction. This is how tolerance develops. Part 2. The brain's neuroplasticity and habit formation. Now, why is it so hard to break this cycle? It's all about neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections based on repeated behaviors. As you repeatedly engage in binge watching, your brain rewires itself. The striatum, an area deep within the brain, is responsible for forming habits. The more you expose yourself to the dopamine rush of binge watching, the more your striatum reinforces this behavior. This means that over time, binge watching becomes a default behavior. The brain creates a habit loop. In simpler terms, the more you binge watch, the more the brain forms connections that strengthen the habit. This loop is composed of 3 parts. Cue: you feel bored, tired, or need entertainment. Routine: you start watching a show. Reward: you get a dopamine rush from the content, and the cycle starts again. A 2015 study in the Journal of Neuroscience explains that the striatum, particularly the caudate nucleus, becomes increasingly active as habits form. The more your brain uses this pathway, the more it becomes automatic, making it harder to stop. Part 3. How to break the cycle. Biochemical and neurochemical tips. Tip 1. Use the Pomodoro technique. The Pomodoro technique is a powerful tool because it allows your brain to reset dopamine levels. By setting a timer for 25 minutes of watching, followed by a 5-minute break, you interrupt the dopamine-driven loop. Scientifically, these breaks allow the brain's reward system to stabilize and restore dopamine balance. When you take a break, your brain gets a chance to process the dopamine it's already received and avoid overstimulation. A study published in Neuroscience Letters shows that taking breaks between tasks reduces the likelihood of dopamine depletion, helping to restore balance to your brain's reward system. Tip 2. Visual cues to interrupt the habit loop. Another powerful technique: use visual cues to break the cycle. By putting a sticky note on your screen that says pause, you engage your conscious mind and disrupt the automatic habits forming in your brain's striatum. A 2008 study from Harvard University showed that introducing visual cues helps activate the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for higher cognitive functions like decision-making and self-control. When you see that cue, it triggers the prefrontal cortex to engage, and your brain will be less likely to continue on autopilot. Tip 3. Preset viewing goals. Another technique is to set a predetermined viewing goal, like I'll watch 2 episodes, no more. This works because your brain forms clearer boundaries around the dopamine reward cycle. A study from Stanford University found that setting specific goals before engaging in an activity strengthens areas of the brain that control willpower, such as the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. When you set these boundaries, you help override your brain's automatic drive for more dopamine by reinforcing your self-control. Part 4. Advanced techniques for hardcore binge watchers. If you're really struggling, let's take it a step further. Using browser extensions like Stay Focused or Pause creates friction between you and the action of binge watching. These tools create cognitive overload, making it harder for your brain to indulge in automatic behavior. A 2013 study in Psychology and Marketing explains that friction, whether it's a time limit or physical block, makes your brain pause and reassess before continuing. Create a reward system that's healthier. After your set watching time ends, reward yourself with a walk, a hobby, or reading a book. By engaging in different behaviors that release dopamine, without a screen, you can rewire your brain's reward system. This works because it shifts the brain's reward system to associate non-screen activities with pleasure, helping to break the binge-watching cycle and restore dopamine balance. Conclusion: breaking the binge-watching cycle isn't just about willpower. It's about understanding how your brain works, how dopamine drives behavior, and how you can use science to your advantage. Start with one of these tips today, and you'll see how powerful your brain can be when you take control. Like this video if you found it helpful, and don't forget to subscribe for more science-backed strategies. Leave a comment letting us know which tip you're going to try first. You've got the knowledge. Now it's time to take control of your screen time.